So many of you guys that follow the channel have taken on the project of restoring either family heirloom axes or hatchets, or you found some old quality steel heads that you've refurbished on eBay or Craigslist or garage sales. And one thing that I sense a lot of exasperation and frustration from a lot of you guys is when it comes to trying to restore the edges. Most of these that you find are going to have, as you can see, this one here, I've been working on it, but some pretty severely chips and nicks out of here. And hand filing this is an option, and it's something that people have done for a long time. However, if you haven't done that or have the ability, the skill to do it, it can be really frustrating, and your results can be not so good. It's hard to get this symmetrical. It's hard to know and to hold and maintain the angles. And so today's video I'm going to share with you a way to put a precision edge on here and how to determine what the proper radius should be. So I'm going to go over just a little bit of nomenclature on what the different portions of the axe or the hatchet head are called. This back section right here is considered to be the pole or the butt. And this cut on the front cutting edge right here, the upper section is called the toe of the bit, and this lower section is called the heel of the bit. So when you hear me using those terms, you'll understand. Toe, heel, and the pole. So first thing we need to do is to find the pivot point of the axe or the hatchet head. So how we do that is what we're going to need is basically a compass. And this is, do you think I could find a compass? I wanted to do the video, I couldn't find anywhere, so I made one up here. And so copy this if you like. A regular compass would be much better. So what we're going to do is that right here on the upper toe of the bit, we're going to put our compass point, not the pencil point right there. And when we set our compass, we want this pencil to come in contact 1/8 of an inch back from the pole. So we'll hold this on here with our finger, and we're going to draw. Once we determine that 1/8 inch back from the pole, we're going to draw an arc. Make sure you press hard enough there where you can see it. After we've got that, we're going to come down here to the heel, and placing the point of the compass right on the corner, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do this on both sides. Alright, if you look right here, you'll see where those two lines intersect. That right there is our pivot point. So from there, maintaining the settings on our compass, we're going to put the compass point right where those two lines intersect. And this is going to be what the radius should be. And a lot of times, you guys are going to get axe heads or hatchet heads that have been ground improperly, and a lot of times they're going to be ground improperly from the manufacturer themselves. So you can see right there, you can see how far off I was, and I'm pretty experienced at doing this, but the natural groove of that head, you can see, is way off to what it should be. You can follow the pencil line right there. So we'll go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side. Alright, you can see right here where our two pencil lines intersected. What we're going to do is we're going to take a center punch, and we're going to very carefully put that center punch right at the crossroads of those lines. Now do this on the back of your vise or on a chunk of railroad tie or an anvil like this, and we'll give it a good whack. You can see right there that we've got that divot there right at the intersection of the lines. So now we've got our center punch marked on both sides. The next thing we're going to do is either using a drill press or a drill or whatever you have. I got a cordless drill here with a little chamfer bit. Is we're going to drill that out just a little bit more. That's perfect right there. You see that? I've already got the other side drilled out. So all morning long I've been trying to think, of a way, how can a guy get a precision edge on these axes, using some standard tools. A belt sander. Grinder is never a good idea because if you overheat it and the metal turns blue, you ruin the edge. Nice thing about a belt sander is that it doesn't get hot enough to destroy the temper on this. So looking around, what do I have? And I came up with a way, I think, that is just ingenious, very simple, very precise, and pretty inexpensive. So right here, this belt sander, you can see, this was, my dad gave this to me for my birthday from Harbor Freight. It's not the best quality, but it's a very handy item, and it's pretty inexpensive. I think, I looked online, I think you can get them on sale for about $75, and I believe you can sign up for their newsletter and get their 20% off coupon and maybe apply that and even get it for less. But it's almost just the perfect tool for doing these edges. So I got to looking at this, and what I came up with is right here, this little guide for the belt sander here had a little point on it. You can see right there, it was just a little point indicator that was pointed at the different angles for turning this. It was held on with a screw. So I took this off, and it had a little bend in it, and I just took it on the back of the anvil and just pounded that flat, what you have here. Then I got a small bolt and lock washer here, and then you can see this guide right here on the back, a stop. What I did is I drilled a hole in here, so I'll bring the camera over and show you how I put this together. So with this little hole, what I came up with is you put the screw through this point and then through the hole, and use a lock washer and some Loctite on there once you get it all set up, because it's going to vibrate. You don't want this to come loose. Alright, so and orient this little point straight up and down, just like that. And we'll tighten that up. Just make sure we're up and down. It's not super critical. This is as straight up and down as you can. Now, when I got to checking, ideally I want my axe heads, I want the angle of the blade, the sharpening, to be around, I kind of like around 25, 24 degrees, somewhere in there. And by placing this on here, when I checked the angles, this came out to about 23 degrees, which is just fine. It's just the way I like it. But what you get here is, you see now that we have the divots here, is that we can put this divot right in the point and rest it in there. And when we turn this on now, we have a perfect hinge point where right at the pole, at the base of the pole of the axe there, where we can rotate this back and forth and maintain that radius, maintain that edge that we drew with our pencil. So at first, I laid it right here on this guide, and it wasn't very precise because I have the axe head moving back and forth a little bit, which is inadvertently changing the angle. And then as I rotate it up, I was just not getting consistency. But the fact that this is fixed on this point right here, and we've determined the proper radius for the cutting edge, now it's perfect. It cannot help but to grind correctly. And we have it on both sides, so we'll grind and then flip it over and line up that point and do the same on the next side. You will have to kind of keep an eye on it, periodically look right down there and make sure that you're getting about the same amount of material on each side. But what I do is I start on one side and I'll work it back and forth, let's say 6 times, just kind of nice even pattern, and then I'll flip over and do the same. Now, one thing you got to be careful of, we have the belt is turning towards the blade, not away. So you don't want to press too hard or get this up at an angle, because it's going to catch and it's going to throw the blade. So you're going to have to be careful with that. So what I have found here, and I'll demonstrate in a minute, is just by holding this gently And just the weight of my fingers, just maybe half the weight of my hand, will work this back and forth and will work these edges. You can see here after about 3 minutes of sharpening on the belt sander. As I said, I had ground that by hand, thinking that I knew what the correct radius was for this particular head, but you can see right there the fact that I've got a fixed point here. I cannot make an error, and you can see it's starting to make the corrections where I had went wrong. You see how the grind is coming in here to the back, and you can see where it's straightening out and it's correcting the bad grind that I'd started with here on both sides. I did not have enough of a radius for this particular head, and this here, it's coming in, it's working it out. So we'll put it back on here and put another 5 minutes on it, and I think we should have it. So it's hard to argue with the results, but it's pretty obvious. Look at the symmetry of that grind. It's just perfect. Both sides. It's at the correct angle. We've corrected the incorrect radius that we had before, and you don't have to spend a lifetime sharpening tools to do this. You know, we've got the point here. We've determined our radius, and you just can't argue with the math, and it's just the way it's supposed to be. And right there, this edge is pretty good. It's not quite good enough to be sharpened with it. We got a little bit of a burr on it, so we'll finish this off by hand. I'll show you how to do that real quick. But that is a very effective technique and very quick. This edge I should have showed you before I started, but it had some really deep nicks in it. I would say it had some nicks that were 1/16 of an inch deep. And just in a matter of just a few minutes, and just carefully working it back and forth, all of those have gone. We've corrected the radius, we've corrected everything, and the thing is in probably better condition now than it was when it was first forged. And of course, you know, no axe head or hatchet head is truly, you know, ready for cutting, ready for use until it's hand honed or hand sharpened. And what I found to work the best are just these round stones. The round stones are nice because you can hold the stone in your hand and do the work this way, which can be done with a square stone, but it doesn't work as well. So there's two that I really like. I've kind of narrowed it down to this one here is the Lansky Stone, and what I really like about this one is that this is what I would consider to be a pack stone, something you could take with you because it's so durable. The fact that they've put a chamfer on these bevels, on these edges here, makes it really durable, and it's not too big, it fits in the palm nice, and it's really good for sharpening. However, it's a little bit small in some cases, and it's not the ideal shop stone. For the shop stone, I like this big one. It's about 3.5 inches or so, and this is made by Norton. We've got a fine and a coarse on here. You guys have seen me use this before, but these two stones you can do just about everything. So before we start using our stone, many of you guys have asked about, you know, do I put oil on a stone or water, or what do you use? You need something on there, and the best that I found is kerosene or diesel. So I'll put a little kerosene on there, and what that does is that just helps carry away all the particles so it doesn't clog up the stone. But hold this in your hand here, and what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve is just starting slow, is basically just imagine you're trying to slice off sections of that stone. And slice off sections. So the angle is kind of hard to determine until you get some practice. So what I typically do is I'll start on it and look at the stone, and I want to see itty bitty microscopic shavings of that stone kind of working up on the edge. So I'll change the angle until, and you can also see the diesel there. See how the diesel is being pressed onto the blade? That's a good indicator that your angle's right. If you see right there, if my angle's too shallow, I've got no diesel, but I'll turn that until that diesel is washing up. It's like waves in the ocean on the beach, just washing up on that axe head. and I'm maintaining the stone, the orientation. I'm just changing the head with my hand. Back it off until you get that little wave of diesel on there. And we'll work this about 3 times. See how that is? The waves on the waves up, or the waves crashing on the beach there. So just in no time, this hatchet head went from really in bad shape, all chipped up, to just near perfection there. Perfect symmetry, perfectly balanced in line with the pole of the hatchet head, and razor sharp. I don't know where this came from, but I'll tell you what, after sharpening I can tell that the steel on this is really good. Kind of just has a feel, I don't know, maybe Swedish, it's hard to say. It's kind of a Scandinavian, just kind of what it appears to me, but sharp, you know, you can see here. Razor sharp. And here's some sandpaper, you can just get an idea of that. Sharp. Sharper than most pocket knives, I think, being carried around. But that really works good. I mean, yeah, you have a little dimple there in your axe head, and maybe if you're a collector or you had something really valuable, that wouldn't be ideal, but I'm a user, and I want my tools sharp. And when they're not sharp, they're dangerous. And this is a foolproof way. You know, I showed you, if you just set up that belt sander like that anyone can do it. No special skills, and a little bit of practice with your Lansky Stone, and you can have just a really, look at that. That's the best edge I've ever put on a blade, and with a Harbor Freight belt sander. This would be a nice, I bet there would be more than one person that'd like to have this one in a giveaway with maybe a custom-made handle. Just throwing that out there. It'd be a hard time giving this one up. It's one of my favorite axe heads. But I hope that helped, and let me know how your sharpening projects come, or if you decide to do it. You know, any belt sander will work. You know, maybe you can come up with your own way. You know, just determine where this point is, and come up with a jig or something to hold it, you know, 25-degree angle or so, whatever you like. But results are results.